First-hand accounts of 503 emergency personnel who witnessed the falling of the towers and the World Trade Center Building No. 7 proves execution of the disaster by rogue agents who had access to the buildings to plant the explosives. It was done to give Bush an excuse to wage war and to put the U.S. into greater debt, while housing his overflow of rogue agents in his new Department of Homeland Security. Their duties, among others, would be to arrest and detain anyone who complained too noticeably about the government or its officers.
We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
This is exactly what George W. Bush has achieved. Exactly. It's appalling what this president has done. No lobbies allows the lockout of corporate control of our elections and the running of the people's government. We should have limited donations by individual citizens only. No donations on behalf of another person. The detailed platforms and personal histories will show the voter what he may expect by voting for each candidate. A multi-partisan review board may bounce back applications for candidates to office for insufficient information and will allow revisions to qualify the candidates before their introduction in the media. Media presentation will be void of negative attacks. Each candidate is considered the only expert on himself and his platform. To be able to witness the counting of your vote gives reassurance to each voter that his or her vote counted and that the system works. A balanced budget would be required in an amendment to the Constitution, with a surplus also specified. Recall by the people is important, as wealthy conspirators have shown that they can tie up Congress and the White House and the judiciary and watch them ruin our country and devastate our people, while stuffing the pockets of the bankers, oil companies, and defense contractors who have participated in the scams and wars and withholding of technology. This recall function by the people needs a people's minister outside the three branches to trump in when needed, with liaisons in the three branches at the top. While defending our sovereign nation and helping with our share to bolster UN troops for out-of-country international military operations, we need to protect the civil rights of all our people, including our men and women in uniform, and not suspend their rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for any cause but a threat within our homeland against those precious rights. The services need to protect our civilian population and support their rights to gather and protest to the ruination of our government from within. The people cling to the spiritual premise of our great nation. We're created equal, and we have the absolute right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The founders understood that subsistence would be required to fulfill the inalienable rights, and Hamilton wrote an 11-point plan guiding America's productivity and economic success. With these principles, America grew to be self-supporting and powerful. Work was made available in the process to allow Americans to provide their subsistence and to be endowed with their spiritual rights, and it worked. The job-creating sector must recognize their responsibility in creating and providing those family-sustaining jobs. To do otherwise is inhumane. When the private sector fails to do this, the government must intervene to assure good economy for all. In simple terms, Some of the extra money at the top is there to ensure good economy on the low end and throughout the economy. Money for jobs, not handouts, like the wage bond we talked about earlier. To unseat the monolithic conspiracy, we need to enter the workers' and managers' ranks and snoop from within. Incentives should help the disclosure. I envision a national reporting center staffed by citizens groups and headed by a people's representative elected from within their ranks to coordinate recalls. With individual cell phone-like devices and identity codes, all government employees and appointees would be encouraged to whistleblow and out suspects of the conspiracy. A reprieve from criminal prosecution should be given for a year to entice cooperation. Furthermore, I'd like to see an engineer for each 100 in the government worker population to monitor projects' progress and worker efficiencies to help keep government trim and to assist in the national reporting scheme. Rewards and protection could be given to important witnesses in addition to a reprieve from prosecution. Let's stand back and take a look at what we've covered and summarize steps on how to achieve peace without violent revolution if possible. We know there's a monolithic worldwide conspiracy operating in a covert manner to control the world's people and the resources of the planet that have commercial value. We know that they've integrated with the governments of the world at important choke points to control what the world governments and economy do. Originally, with smaller assets, they've manipulated large flows of money into their hands by causing wars, cheating and threatening small governments, and while scamming with their banks. So they use the people's money to fund the activities that they control for their own benefit. We know that they're pushing hard and fast for national government bankruptcies around the world to cripple and immobilize these forces, while their treasuries continue to support their rogue intelligence operatives and private armies to force capitulation if necessary. Our challenge is to shine light on their operations and to gather the good people in the intelligence business, the armed forces, the upper end of the economy, the government, and the media, to out their evil system in detail, cut their support by governments and the theft of the people's money in that support, and to prosecute and recover illicitly gained fortunes to pay down legitimate debts and restore our governments. What I propose is a sustainable capitalistic economy that is good for all the people, that requires the top 10% to share through their wage bonds and their higher taxes the good life with the people while preserving some savings and all legitimate wealth at the top. The minimum step in the direction of peace and prosperity is to reason with big oil to stop their scrounging of more oil and start the conversion to solar electric. We must also balance the federal budget and produce a surplus of maybe $400 billion a year to pay off our national debt. This requires deep budget cuts in the military and social programs and a huge increase in taxes for the rich. This is the least that is needed to avoid doomsday when we collapse if we don't do this. If we must perish unnaturally for not turning around this rush to the cliff, I pray that all the seed of Prescott Bush, all his blood descendants, and all the others responsible perish with us. Thank you for your time and your attention.